We're back from recess. I'm going to call this meeting back into session. Rhonda, will you please take the roll call?
Here.
Here. Here. First item that we have here is RZ 2024-0023, and I'll accept a motion to open a public hearing.
Mr. Chair, I move we open a public hearing on WF Real Estate Rezone, case number RZ 2024-0023.
Motion, second.
Second.
All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. All right. I'll let who's the land user planner present the item. Let's go.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Commission. My name is Kelsey Lanham. For the record, I'm with Elbert County's Planning Department. And this afternoon, I will be presenting WF Real Estate Rezone, case number RZ-2024-0023. So about the project, with no official address yet, the subject property is located at parcel number 64251-00-023. It is just over 40 acres in size and is currently zoned agriculture. The applicant is John Wilson, and he is requesting to rezone the entire property from agriculture to residential agriculture, or RA. In the next few slides, I'll show the subject property by the red star. This property is located directly southeast of the subdivision Sun Country and north of EC West. The property has historically been vacant and there are no structures on the property. Once again, the property is currently zoned agriculture. Surrounding properties are zoned agriculture, residential agriculture, agriculture residential, and plan unit development, also known as PUD. The closest RA properties, which is the zone district the applicant is requesting to go to, those RA properties are approximately 5.6 miles to the west along County Road 174, and the closest AR properties border the subject property to the east, less than 500 feet away. I do want to emphasize that the only difference between an RA and an AR zoned property is one development standard, which is the minimum lot width requirement. For a RA property, that minimum lot width is 200 feet, and for an AR property, it's 250 feet. Both the zone districts allow for 10-acre minimum lots. And here is a snippet of their rezone exhibit. The property line is outlined in yellow, with the road named Winner's Circle outlined in red. The entire property is currently known as Parcel D. And looking at their timeline, this project had their pre-application meeting in January of 2024. Their community meeting was held in March of 2024. Their formal application was deemed complete in August of 2024, with their first referral period being in September of 2024. This item went before the Planning Commission on April 1st of 2025. However, it was continued to April 25th so that a more in-depth packet could be provided to the commissioners. The Planning Commission voted 9-0 to recommend approval with conditions to the BOCC at the April 15th hearing. There was no public comment or any questions, comments from the PC during that hearing. And here we are today at the BOCC hearing on April 23rd. This project met all noticing requirements in the Elbert County zoning regulations, and the project was in compliance throughout their entire application process. At the community meeting, there was one person in attendance outside of the applicant and Elbert County Planning staff. The one person in attendance did not have any concerns about the rezone. They inquired if parcel H of the subdivision had been subdivided yet, which it has not. Other than that, no public comment has been received, and like I mentioned, there was no public comment at the Planning Commission hearing. These are the referral agencies that reviewed the application. There is an asterisk by the Rattlesnake Fire Department. The fire district did not respond during the referral period. However, a signed fire protection form by the Rattlesnake chief was submitted with their application. There are no outstanding objections or comments from any of the referral agencies. And with that, the Elbert County Zoning Regulations, Article 3C4, require the following review criteria to be met for a rezone application. A, the rezone is generally consistent with the goals and policies of the Elbert County Comprehensive Plan. This rezone is consistent with the Elbert County Comprehensive Plan goals and policies. B, the rezone is compatible with surrounding land uses. This rezone is compatible with surrounding land uses. C, the rezone will not adversely impact public services. It was found that the rezone would not impact public services. D, the rezone will not adversely impact the environment. It was found that the rezone would not impact the environment. E, this rezone will not create unreasonable traffic congestion or burden existing road system. This rezone will not create unreasonable traffic. The original property owner was required to install a 2 entrance point road throughout the subdivision by Public Works. Public Works has reviewed this rezone application and has no objections or comments. And F, the rezone will not be detrimental to the present or future inhabitants of Elbert County. This rezone will not be detrimental to Elbert County. So based on the review of approval criteria found in the Elbert County Zoning Regulations and the findings in the staff report, staff recommends approval with conditions of the WF real estate rezone. Those conditions are, number 1, the applicant shall remove signs within 2 weeks of the conclusion of all notified meetings, public hearings, or decisions. Signs not removed within 2 weeks may be removed by Elbert County, subject to reasonable charges for removal. Number 2, the rezone will not become effective until all fees are paid, conditions of approval are met, and the rezone exhibit is recorded. And 3, recordation of all appropriate documentation is to occur within 180 days of BOCC approval. And that concludes my presentation. The applicant is present today. If the commission has any questions, I'm also available for questions as well.
All right, thank you. We'll ask the applicant if he would like to come up to the podium. Thank you, sir. If you give us your name. It's green, so it should work.
All right.
There you go.
Rebooted. Name's John Wilson. I live at 9366 Oak Brush Way in Lone Tree. Appreciate your consideration today. I don't have any statements to make, but I'm happy to answer questions.
All right, Commissioner Schroeder, do you have any questions, sir? I do not. Commissioner Buck? I do not. You're getting off easy today.
It's better than round 1.
Yeah, I hear you. All right, are there any citizen comments at this time? All right, going once. Okay. If you would state your name and address, please.
Beverly Durant, 40968 Kiowa Bennett Road in Kiowa. I just have some general opposition to this. Number 1, I think this will adversely impact our public services and will burden our road systems because the traffic in Kiowa Bennett is increasing on a daily basis, especially big rigs. If you've ever driven on it lately, you'll notice there are holes all over the roadway, and it just gets worse every day. They patch it, next day the holes are back. So that will negatively impact both public services and the road system. This also is on a curve, right before a curve. Once they start, you rezone and they start building this, you won't be able to see around that curve. That's a very dangerous situation right there, because there are cows that go around it all the time. I mean, cars that go around it. There's also livestock and wildlife on that road. And if you can't see around that curve, you're gonna hit something.
Hang on just a minute. You may be talking about the wrong.
About the
Wrong.
rezone, I can come back up when you get that. I just thought
Okay.
I'd get my things
All right.
in on the rezoning, because that's the first step.
Yeah, okay, all right.
Just to be clear, you're talking about the parcel we just had seen, your objection to that rezone, or you're objecting to something we're going to hear later on today?
Oh, I'm not sure, to be honest, because since there's no address, I couldn't tell you that was given.
Can you put the map back up, please?
We just want to be sure.
That's fine. Okay, yes, it isn't. Sorry about that. I'll come up in a minute.
Back in a minute. All right, thank you. Any other public comments? All right, with that, we'll close the public comments. Any additional questions from the board before we go forward? Motion?
I do not.
All right. With that, I'll ask for a motion.
Mr. Chair, I move we approve the WF Real Estate Rezone, case number RZ 2024-0023.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, sign of aye.
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 Motion carries. All right, I will accept a motion to close this public hearing.
Mr. Chair, I move we close the public hearing on WF Real Estate Rezone, case number RZ 2024-0023.
Second?
Second.
All right. Favor, sign of aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. All right, I accept a motion to open public hearing on the Peak Vista RV and Mini Storage Economic Development Zone Site Development Plan EDZ-2024-4358.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to open a public hearing for the Peak Vista RV and Mini Storage Economic Development Zone Site Development Plan, EDZ 2024-4358.
Second.
All in favor, sign of aye.
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 All right.
Right. Good afternoon, Commissioners. My name is Danny Klebanner. I'm a land use planner here for Elbert County Community and Development Services. Today, I will be presenting the Peak Vista RV and Mini Storage Project, and that case number is EDZ 2024-4358. Start with some project summary. This site is generally located on Kiowa Bennett Road between Pavo and County Road 178, where Kiowa Bennett curves. The site size is 114 acres. The zoning is currently A, agriculture, and the project footprint is roughly 77 acres. The property owner is D. McCall with Rio Grande Alameda Limited, and the applicant representative here is CJ Kirst with Tahoe Consulting. Situs address for the middle parcel is 43584 Kiowa Bennett Road in Kiowa, Colorado 80117. The request here is for an economic development zone site development plan for a storage facility. This storage facility consists of approximately 46 buildings, and it will have outdoor RV parking. A little look at the site in relation to the county. As you can see, the little green blue circle there is the site, and we'll keep moving in so you can see better, but this is a look at the whole county. As we move in a little bit, here's the site. It's generally located about 10 miles north of Kiowa, again on Kiowa Bennett Road. Here's a look at the zoning map of the property. The 3 parcels in this site development plan are shown with the red stars. To the north, you have an agricultural lot, about 160 acres. To the south is a 52-acre property also owned by Rio Grande Alameda. To the east, you have agriculture residential lots with the Peak Vista subdivision. There's 5 lots that are adjacent to the project site. And to the west, you have an agriculture 320-acre parcel. It's also important to note that EC East is shown with that purple PUD zoning. That is just to the east of the project and south. That will eventually consist of about 3,000 residential lots. And EC West, you can see just the corner of it there, down at, or to the left of your picture. That's also another large PUD. Here is a look at the site with the Economic Development Zone overlay. The purpose of the Economic Development Zone overlay is to facilitate the implementation of goals and policies of the Elbert County Comprehensive Plan and to promote economic activity and mixed uses along the Elbert County travel corridors. Mini storage is permitted as a use by right in commercial and industrial zoning, while it requires the EDZ site plan approval when it's in this zoning. So that's why we're here today. Here's an aerial look at the property. Right now, very much agricultural and not a lot of development can be seen from this aerial. As we move in a little bit closer, you can see a few of those lots in Peak Vista, and the site is outlined. That's the entire 3-parcel, 114 acres. As we move further along, we'll see the site plan. Here's a look from the street at the south portion of the project. This is Pablo Street in Kiowa Bennett. And as we move a little bit further north, this is the existing driveway on the property that serves the current ranch and homestead there. All right, now more into the project summary. So this, again, is a storage facility. In our land use table, it'd be considered mini storage and RV storage. There will be up to 1,726 RV parking spaces. Those are about 30 to 66 feet in length by 12 feet wide, and about 229,000 square feet in built ground floor mini storage, comprising 46 buildings, comprising about 1,500 mini storage units. That's about 5.2 acres of indoor mini storage. Here's a look at the phased site development plan. As you can see, just at the north part, that's a portion on that north parcel. The red line shows the site development area, that shaded red area. Those blue boxes down at the bottom show the building locations for the mini storage units. The smaller rectangles are approximately 2,600 square foot buildings, and the larger rectangles are about 5,400 square foot mini storage buildings. Moving a little further into the site development plan, here's some detail of the north part. This is phase A. That would consist of basically the gate, the RV dump and water fill station. As you can see, that's going to be gravel base there. As we move further south, here's also phase A. It consists of the RV parking and detention pond. The parking will be set back about 60 feet from the adjacent residential there in Peak Vista subdivision. And on the west side, it'll be about 85 feet away from Kiowa Bennett Road. There's room for Kiowa Bennett Road expansion, so it'd be set back at least 40 feet if or when Kiowa Bennett Road is expanded. Those green circles there on the right are trees. They're also on the west side. I didn't show them there, but there will be approximately 85 trees and 45 on the east side there bordering Peak Vista subdivision, and 40 in the front, spaced about 50 feet apart. Moving further south, here's also Phase A. This is the southern part of Phase A, and you can see the existing buildings. Those are to remain. The driveway will have to be improved to commercial access, and basically one of the access points for the storage facility would come off of that existing driveway. Moving further south into Phase B, there's larger than 100-foot separation between Phase A and Phase B. In that middle portion will remain unfenced and could allow partially as a wildlife corridor. That was a request from CPW. Here you see more storage and parking right here, and a second detention pond. And then finally, Phase D, the final phase of this project consists of those storage buildings. They're set back about 150 feet from Kiowa Bennett Road, or the property line there, and 100 feet from the west property line with Peak Vista subdivision. You can see Pavo Avenue there, Pavo Street, and that will be paved to at least the entrance that was required in the traffic review. Here's a look at some of these buildings. These are the building elevations of the storage, and you can see the north and south elevations, as well as east and west, the mini storage units. There's the proposed fence, a screen chain link fence, and planting detail for the trees. Right now, moving into the project timeline. This got kicked off back in June 26th of 2024, 2024 with a pre-application meeting. There was no community meeting. They're not required for EDZ site plans. The formal application was submitted in December of last year. Went for a couple of different referral periods, end of November through December, and then January through February of 2025. And all noticing complies with Elbert County zoning regulation, 14-day advance notice. We have signed posting affidavits. We requested them later because of the language on these, so our applicants have provided us with all affidavits necessary and complied with all the noticing requirements. Right, moving into public comment. So again, there's no community meeting required. We have received comments in opposition to the project. We've received 6, 5 were included in the packet. We have 1 additional I have that was received the day after the packet was published. I have that if you would like to see it. I can bring that over, that additional comment. But concerns were about design, the location of storage buildings, impact on property values, and safety concerns among some other concerns. Moving into the referral of the project, this application was sent on its first referral from November 19 to December 10th of 2024. The second referral period was from January 23rd to February 6th. The applicant responded to all comments and requested to move forward to this public hearing, despite the project not having full staff support. The main issues addressed in the referral period included review of the on-site wastewater treatment system, revisions to the site plan, traffic management review, and concerns that this project does not meet review criteria set forth by the zoning regulations. The referral letters and all referral responses are included in that agenda packet, and those were published for you. Again, these agencies on the slide all reviewed the project and provided feedback for us. Right, moving forward to approval criteria. Elbert County Zoning Regulations, Article 3H4, has the following review criteria for all site development plans, EDZ and otherwise. The first is that A, the use is in harmony and compatible with the surrounding area. The size and scale of this storage facility does not seem to be in harmony with the agricultural and large lot residential context that exists, or with the medium and higher density residential PUD zoning that is planned with the EC East development. 46 buildings ranging from about 2,600 square feet to about 5,400 square feet. 38 of those buildings do not seem to be in harmony with the neighborhood. There is over 225,000 square feet of storage proposed across almost 50 buildings in an area currently supporting residential and agricultural development. Over 1,700 recreational vehicle parking spaces, and the area of gravel parking lot does not fit within the context of the present neighborhood or future neighborhood. It is important to note that this area has been approved for large subdivisions, including EC East, with approximately 3,000 residential units planned. But again, the size and scope of this storage facility does not seem compatible to the higher density residential either. B, whether the use will not have an undue burden on available infrastructure subject to mitigation. This site development plan has provided evidence of adequate access, a plan for septic, fire protection, and electricity. All traffic comments have been addressed. Public Works have no additional comments. Elbert County Public Works and Elbert County Public Health approve of the use. The existing infrastructure should be able to support this business. C, whether the use will not have an undue burden on available infrastructure subject to mitigation. The applicant has provided a traffic letter which was reviewed and approved by Elbert County Public Works. The development will require paving of a section of Pavo Street. The 4 access points to the development must be built to Elbert County Road and Bridge standards for commercial access. D, whether the use will not cause significant air, odor, water, noise, or light pollution. There is only outdoor lighting at the gates of the development. The impact on the community could cause some noise impacts based on the size of the facility and the rural surroundings. The use will not cause significant air, odor, water, or light pollution. E, whether all sanitation requirements will be met. All sanitation requirements will be met. The applicant will need to complete an application for their on-site wastewater treatment system and provide soils testing and system design. Elbert County Public Health will review that plan to ensure the sizing of the on-site wastewater treatment system is adequate for the proposed plans. It will also include metering. The RV dump station must be designed by an engineer. F, whether the use will be adequately landscaped, buffered, and screened. The applicant will install a 6-foot tall fence, which is a screen chain link fence surrounding the storage area, and that meets Elbert County zoning regulations. The requirement is a 6-foot solid fence. The applicant will also plant 85 trees that are at least 6 feet tall. 40 trees are proposed along the Kiowa-Bennett frontage, and 45 trees are proposed along the western property line outside of the proposed fence. The requirements for outdoor storage of at least a 6-foot tall fence were submitted by the applicant. However, the adjacent Peak Vista subdivision covenants, some in that were concerned that the chain link fencing might not meet the criteria for them, so that was another resident concern. G, whether the use will not otherwise be detrimental to the health, safety, or welfare of the present or future inhabitants of Elbert County. The impact on the community may be detrimental. Staff believe the scale and scope of the site development plan is out of context with the surrounding neighborhood. There was no required engagement for the public with this project, as is true with all EDZ plan. There's nothing required. Although this area has been identified as a target for economic development, the size of this project in relation to the surrounding area could be detrimental to the present or future inhabitants of Elbert County. And H, whether all supplemental standards are met. Supplementary standards are being met for the screening of storage areas. A 6-foot tall solid fence is required, and the site plan features an acceptable landscaping plan. So with that, Planning Department finds the following for the proposed site development plan. It may not be in harmony or compatible with the surrounding area or neighborhood. It will not have an undue burden on available infrastructure. It will not unduly increase traffic congestion or burden the existing road system. It will not cause significant air, odor, water, or light pollution. There's some concerns about the noise based on the size of the project. It will meet all sanitation requirements. It will be adequately landscaped and screened. However, the size of the facility could require additional buffering or reduction in size. It may otherwise be detrimental to the health, safety, or welfare of the present inhabitants of Elbert County, and it does meet supplemental standards. Based on the review of the approval criteria found in Elbert County zoning regulations, Article 3H4, and concerns about compatibility, staff does not recommend approval of the Peak Vista RV and mini storage EDZ site development plan. However, should the Board of County Commissioners find that the proposal meets all approval criteria, the following conditions of approval are recommended. 1, the applicant will be required to remove public hearing sign within 7 days of a decision by the Board of County Commissioners. 2, the site development plan will not become effective until all fees are paid, conditions of approval are met, and the site development plan is recorded. 3, recordation of all appropriate documentation to occur within 180 days of Board of County Commissioner approval. 4, impact fees must be paid and all required permits must be obtained prior to construction of the buildings. 5, the applicant must receive approval from Elbert County Public Health for the RV dump station. And 6, the applicant must install and maintain all plant materials shown on the landscape plan. Any plants or trees that are unhealthy or dead must be replaced. The landscape plan shall continue to be maintained for the life of the project. And there was one other on your staff report, but the applicant has provided evidence of the replacement plan that was approved by the Division of Water Resources, so I removed that one for the presentation. And the applicant is here to share additional details about the project and answer questions. Staff is also available to answer any questions. So that concludes this presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to invite the applicant up for questions from the board. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon. My name is C.J. Kirst. I'm with Tahoe Consulting. 9457 South University Boulevard, Highlands Ranch, Colorado, 80126. I'd like to add a little bit more versus getting right into questions. Is that possible?
Yeah, you sure.
Okay. All right, that's usually what happens. So Danny's presentation pretty much came down to one thing that staff don't find comfortable, and that comes down to compatibility. All the other criteria were met. This is a permit. All these uses are permitted within the economic overlay zone. Danny, if you could pull up that exhibit that I asked you to have ready to go. So there's no denying, if you look at the way that the land is, surrounding ground is being used today, that this doesn't seem like a logical piece to a puzzle, okay? But when you take into consideration all of the 3 new master plan projects that the county has approved zoning for, you got Morstead, EC East, and EC West. That's 6,500 new homes that they have been entitled to, plat and build at some point in time. Not to mention, to the north, which isn't that far away, is the town of Bennett. And there's a legitimate number of new homes that are being built up there. We see this as a regional facility. It's certainly not specific to just EC East. And when you look at the statistical criteria when it comes to how many people own RVs and boats and use mini storages, 9%, this is some current data, 9% of people own an RV, 8.7% of people own boats, and 1 out of 5 utilize indoor mini storage. Those numbers collectively, when you combine the number of new homes that are in those 3 new projects that Elbert County's approved zoning for, plus the new development up in Bennett, roughly 10,000 new homes, all those projects combined. When you take into consideration 9% for RVs, 8.7 for boats, and 20% or 1 in 5 for mini storage, that's about 3,800 new units, so to speak. Combination of boats and RVs and mini storage. So you can tell our numbers aren't that far off from providing those demands. Something that was touched on a little bit, because we are building, or we plan to build this with these master plan communities being built, our anticipation is that we scale our construction with the new homes as they're getting built, or the new phases in these residential communities that are getting built. So we're not coming out day one and building all of these. We do have different phases shown on our plan. That was a starting point. We never really got any more, we never got any feedback on any phasing, so we've left it where we have the phasing right now. We're not against, additional phasing if that's what, it would be helpful here. And something that wasn't mentioned, and I from what I understand, the developer for EC East and EC West has written a letter supporting this project. One of the reasons that they support it is these new master plan communities don't allow people to park their RVs and boats. I mean, that's a pretty typical covenant or restriction. So they're in support of having a location that is close by. The same is going to be true for Morstead and for all these communities, these new projects up in Bennett. They don't allow you to park these recreational vehicles on site. And obviously the developer is in favor of having mini storage available to try to get, that offering as well in a close location for their projects. So I'm happy to answer questions. I just want to focus in on the fact that we spent a lot of time addressing a lot of referral agency comments. This is a little different in that it's not a high water demand sort of project. It's really not a high traffic demand project. So the overall effect to the area is not the same as if, we were to plat, single family lots in there, or have a much higher commercial use that we are proposing. So happy to answer any questions you guys have.
Mr. Schroeder, do you have any questions, sir?
Yes. I have quite a few things flagged. But first, I have a catch up with staff. I have a couple questions for staff. Danny, early on, I appreciate your report there. Early on, you made a comment about that storage units were used by right if it was through another type of application. And I missed, did that also include RV storage, or is it just the...
Yes, yeah, so the mini storage, RV storage is permitted as a use by right in commercial and industrial zoning. So if this property were zoned commercial or industrial, that would be a use by right. They would still have to submit a site development plan, which we would judge based on our approval criteria regardless, but it's a use by right that's approved by site development plan.
And so if it was zoned in such a way, would that have changed your recommendation?
If it were zoned industrial, I think that might change my recommendation.
Okay. Is there anything the applicant could have done with this current application to make you feel more favorably toward it?
I think I think there's a few things that could be done. I think the number and size of the buildings is out of context. 46 buildings with, 5.2 acres of storage space seems out of context to me. I think maybe even if it was one building with reduced size, that might make me look more favorably on it. So there's definitely some things that I think potentially could make it more compatible.
Okay. Say we're 20 years down the road and EC East is half built out at that point. The others are at a certain level of build out. Would that change your opinion on this application?
I don't think necessarily that would change my judgment, no, because that has been planned for. The zoning is there, so they can build those. And right now there's kind of that lack of development, but down the road that will be there. So that wouldn't change. It wouldn't change on it.
Okay. And so what, if the primary concern is the size, what size do you see as one that would be compatible?
Well, we've seen some other recent storage facilities come in that are, quite a bit smaller, so it's hard to compare. I've seen some that are basically 10% or less of the size. So it's really kind of comparing apples to oranges when you're looking at something that's, 80-acre gravel lot with 5 acres of indoor storage. So it's hard for me to compare the other ones to one of this size.
I appreciate that. I'm not trying to throw stones. I'm just trying to get into your head a little bit and see where the rationale came from. So I certainly appreciate that. Chair, if you'd like me to continue with the rest of my questions for the applicant, I can, unless
Yes, sir.
there are questions for staff. Mr. Kurz, I appreciate you coming before us today. This is a little bit out of the ordinary for what we've seen in the EDZ application before, but as staff explained, it is within the scope, so we'll deal with it as we can. So I just had a couple questions on there. As I understand it, the traffic letter that we received had the different amounts of traffic volume and so forth. We had a previous RV storage before us in the fall that had a letter also, but it really didn't take into account the large vehicles and the acceleration of those large vehicles it was just a vehicle count. Can you explain if this is different than what that letter would have been? Does it take into account the slow acceleration?
Yes, I think the project you're talking about is on 166?
Correct.
Okay, so our traffic engineer has looked at that's a different road classification, and they have taken into account the traffic volume and the type of road that Kiowa Bennett is specifically. There was an initial comment because the traffic standards don't really have a agreed upon trip rate for RV storage. So our traffic engineer, using his experience, he's about 70 years old and he worked for CDOT, so I trust his experience, came up with what he believed to be a trip rate. That same trip rate was used and approved on another RV storage project that I got approved through the county just east of here, and it was acceptable to CDOT. We got comment back saying that the 166 project traffic study had come up with a different trip rate and that they believed that we should use that trip rate. We did. We revised everything. It really did not have any net effect on whether turn lanes were necessary or not. The type of traffic that's out there today did not, and the current trips that we were going to be adding didn't dictate that we needed any sort of turn lanes.
Go through that. Okay. Thank you for that. The Water supply letter that we have in our packet on page 2 from McGreedy, Beecher, Cortese, and Williams. On the second page, talking about bullet point on the Denver aquifer. The applicant is in the process of applying for a new replacement plan, and I understand Danny said that that's in place now. The Denver aquifer will be used for an RV wastewater dump site, the RV water filling station for domestic use, or caretaker's house. I'm hoping I'm not understanding this correctly. The aquifer will be used for an RV wastewater dump site. So the water from there will be used for, how does that correlate to the dump site, I guess is what I'm asking.
So typically at some of the more established RV storage facilities, they allow you, imagine you're coming back from a trip in the mountains and you've got your waste in a tank on board, to discharge your waste into a dump site. In addition, the flip side of that, somebody's headed out to go up to the mountains, they can fill their RV up with potable water. So those are how the two uses come together.
I thought that's what it was. It just read a little funny to me on the first site, so I understand that. In the second referral summary, second page, there's mention, Elbert County Planning, point 1, under AI, A1, there is a mention of a campground site in the sewer flow and demand. But I don't see anything further that talks about a campground site there. So care to explain a little bit further on, give us an idea what the campground might look like?
Yeah, so initially, when we had our pre-application, the far north end, which we're really not incorporating any use with this particular project, right there at the corner, we had proposed RV camping as well. And then we were told afterwards that RV camping is not an allowed use, and that we would have to apply for a use by special review. So we've excluded that from this particular application, since we're trying to just comply with what are permitted uses inside the economic overlay zone. However, when you're working to get your water and wastewater approval from the state, it's always easier to do it once and to have your ultimate water demand and your ultimate wastewater situation approved. So inside those applications, we have accounted for campground. We recognize that we still have to go through an EDZ process. It's not a guarantee, but it's there from the state's perspective.
Just in kind of like a placeholder almost.
Yes.
Right. As far as the wastewater collection, referring the right letter here, from CDPHE, page 2, talking about domestic wastewater. Some projects with wastewater collection may have domestic wastewater treatment works with a design capacity to receive greater than 2,000 gallons a day. I understand that from reading that you believe it'll be under $2,000 or $2,000 gallons a day. How will that be monitored? That's the maximum that's going into the wastewater.
Real similar to the situation with the water usage coming out of the well. We'll have a system set up that will determine what the current capacity is of each of the septic tank itself. And if we ever get to a point where we are filling that tank up quicker than we expect, and we anticipate that we're headed in the direction of exceeding 2,000 gallons per day, then we have to go to the next level with the health department.
Okay, so at this point, you would not allow any more dumping if you were at the 2,000 gallon mark?
Right.
I saw later on you followed the recommendations from Park and Wildlife on a corridor. It's a question I had earlier on. You mentioned different phases of construction kind of following along development that takes place in the surrounding area. What do you anticipate is the timeline for reaching those different phases?
I mean, to be honest with you, we don't really see this project breaking ground for a year and a half, 2 years, knowing where EC East, EC West, Morstead is in context to this. And, you know, this is a long project because of the numbers. So, you know, it could be a 10, 15-year build to stay. From a business standpoint, you're not going to build more than you can rent.
Right.
So that's going to dictate things, but that's, at our point in time, that's kind of where we see the long-term schedule being.
Okay. I think that makes sense. That answered that question too. That's all I have at this time, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Buck?
Yeah, I have some questions for you, and I'm going to set the compatibility issue aside for a minute, and we can get back to that. So no restrooms on site?
Correct.
Okay. Because I did want to see it, because I know there was one building on site that had a restroom, and I just wanted to see with the size of this facility if any restrooms were going to be provided, but you're saying none will be provided?
Not until and if we get our use by special review for the campsite. Our thought there is that we would have restrooms and a bathhouse.
Okay. Okay, and then let's talk about buffering a little bit. 6-foot trees on 2 sides, and did I read correctly that they were going to be inside the fence on one of the sides? Or was that changed?
Well, I think we have inside on one side and outside on the other. I think it's inside the fence on the Kiowa Bennett side. Does that sound right? Okay. And that was to accommodate any sort of future widening and not having to move trees.
Okay, so let me ask you a question. If you have a 6-foot cyclone fence with a 6-foot buffer tree, how is that buffering anything?
Well, it's a chain link.
And it's inside the fence?
It's a chain link fence. And the fence is going to stay at 6 and the trees are going to grow.
Those trees take years to grow.
We can move them outside of the fence. The only reason we did that was for the possibility of Kiowa Bennett Road being widened. So, I mean, we're not opposed to moving it.
So you didn't think that the fence could be brought into the property a little bit further?
No, we're trying to put the fence in its ultimate location. I think we had the trees on the outside, and I'm not sure how that all came together because we had them all consistently the same. And then through one of the referral comments, Danny and I talked about how it makes sense to keep the trees on the inside for Kiowa Bennett for the purpose of the expansion.
Interesting. I just saw that and I was like, well, why are we, if it's a buffering requirement, why are we putting them on the inside of the fence, especially at 6 feet tall? If you got a 6-foot cyclone fence, it doesn't make any sense. It's not a buffer. That's just me. One of the comments I think Dallas brought up was Colorado Parks and Wildlife Department. Dallas touched on that a little bit. Page 477, Matt Martinez of the Colorado Parks and Wildlife Department. This proposal in itself will add to the incremental and accumulative loss of wildlife habitat in Elbert County.
Yeah, and I think the concern there was, are we providing a wildlife corridor or are we cutting it off? And we had already stopped. Can we go back to a plan that shows the site so I can? We had already stopped the fence in between. So the Phase A, Phase B line. The reason that that's not being proposed for storage is that's a drainage way, and so our fencing never cut off, never had fencing straight across that corridor. So it was really, I think the Wildlife Department is confirming that we're not going to cut off that corridor, which we had never intended to. So we maintain that that corridor still allows wildlife movement.
Okay. When I saw that, I think that was taken into consideration, that corridor right there. But
Yeah. It's a clear shot the whole way from Kiowa Bennett east.
so one of the next questions would be lighting. Lighting is going to be provided at the entrances, not throughout which is a good idea in some respects. My only concern would be safety and what the hours of operation would be.
Yeah, lighting it's a tough one to please everybody because of the pollution.
Why I asked it.
Yeah, so obviously we are going to be providing lighting at the entrances. We see a lot of this obviously being an automated system. A lot of these storage facilities are automated, so you can drive right up, punch a code, and get in. So those areas would be lit. We were concerned about light pollution, which is really the main reason why we stopped there. From a security standpoint, as I mentioned, the gates will be on a security system where you do have to have access codes to open those gates. We haven't really gotten down into the weeds in terms of hours of operation. I know that was a concern. It's something that we certainly can work with the residents on, making sure that everybody's comfortable with that, but we're just not there yet.
It just came up in my mind that it could be a safety issue with no lighting on a facility enclosed. Someone gets inside the fence perimeter, there's no lighting, someone's opening a storage unit, that sort of thing. It could be a recipe
Let me backtrack. I painted a broad brush. On the storage units themselves, those will likely have a light, on the face of the building. But the individual open air storage areas would not. And again, it's a, if I was to come in here and light that place up, there'd be a lot of complaints about light pollution. It's a business decision to limit the amount of lighting, because you're right. I mean, it is a concern that I guess somebody could have, but we saw our decision as what was better for the surrounding area.
So during their proposal, now you're saying lights only at the entrances. But later on, you may decide, hey, we want more lighting, and you're going to put lighting on the buildings. Because I didn't see that in the packet.
What I was saying is that we would have lighting on the buildings and at the entrances.
Okay, I don't know if I saw that was that in the packet? Okay, I didn't see it in the packet.
I don't remember seeing it.
I didn't see it. Okay, and I know this traffic study concept has been kind of beaten to death, for lack of another word, but so your traffic study engineer recommends no turn lane necessary.
And Kimberly Horn, the county's third-party consultant, agreed with that.
Verified it. I did see that.
Yes.
I did see that. Now, and I also saw that they referenced EC East quite a bit, and I didn't see the references to EC West and/or Morstead when I was reading through that. Now, what I did see was a certain percentage coming from the east, a certain percentage, so maybe they took those into consideration. I wasn't sure.
Yeah, so what our traffic engineer did was they took the EC East traffic study, which took into consideration, obviously, all the other surrounding and new projects itself. And we incorporated that traffic volume into our traffic that we're creating, in addition to the existing current traffic and the growth that is projected for Kiowa Bennett. So it all has been considered in our traffic study.
Gotcha. Now, do you know for a fact that the final plats have been approved for EC East or EC West or Morstead?
I don't believe the final plats have.
Okay. Yeah, my understanding was they have not been approved yet.
Just the zoning
Yeah, okay.
and preliminary plat.
I think that's all I had, other than let's go back to compatibility. we'll touch on it, that's the big elephant in the room that everybody's concerned about. 160-acre ag property to the north. You have a subdivision that butts up against it called Big Vista Subdivision. 320-acre property, ag property to the south. There's a compatibility issue there for sure.
Well, let's talk about, the south is EC East. So, they're already approved for a number of new homes, as I mentioned. The property to the north, we are in communication with them regularly. They are in favor of our project. They have considered the same sort of development considerations. So I'm not, I think that the way that the compatibility has been portrayed is not completely accurate. I think that you have to take into consideration what has been currently zoned, what those projects are intending to build, and some of the support that we've gotten from them, as well as from our neighbors. I understand that the owners to the east don't feel that same way, but when it comes to what this area of Elbert County is going to look like, that's when this makes more sense. But we can't build after. We have to be prepared to build in conjunction and scale with the new growth that's occurring. And that's why we're proposing this now, as opposed to 15 years from now when all those rooftops are there.
Yeah, it could be a timing thing. It could be a scalable thing where you could build them in the future. Maybe it's premature now. But that's all I had.
Thank you, Commissioner Buck. The only question I have, and most of you've asked a lot of my questions here, and I've checked them off, but I'm concerned about the safety aspect on that road there and where you're at, and not having a turn lane there, because people travel through that road and they're cooking when they go through there. It can be like a raceway. In addition to that, I'm concerned about the compatibility there as well. But with that, I don't really have a question. I just want to make a comment about that. So if there are no other questions for the commissioners, I'll turn this over to the public for citizen comments. Thank you, sir. Are there any citizens' comments? Come up here to the front, sir. Come up here to the front and give us your name and address, please, for the record.
My name is Peter Myers. I live at 3987 Running Brook Road. I'm familiar with the Kiowa Bennett Road, and when the subject was brought up about not having a turn lane and having a keypad to get in the gate, does that mean an RV is going to be sitting out in the road for 5 minutes, or does he have a place to pull off in the entrance to either of those parking areas where he's off the road and 50-mile-an-hour traffic can proceed? That's my question.
Thank you, sir. Any other comments?
Sunny Mills, 27310 Forest Ridge Drive. Okay, so this gentleman just said that this is going to be compatible with what it's going to look like in the future. And I don't think anybody who lives in Elbert has a vision of almost 2,000 storage units on 46 buildings and an RV dump with a wastewater treatment that is unlined into our well water and aquifers as a vision for the future. That sounds more like something out of dystopian East LA. Let's talk about Elbert County, beautiful Elbert County. So I was driving and I went down Kiowa Bennett Road, south towards home, and I got to County Line Road, and it turns and then dips down into Elbert County. And You could see Pikes Peak. You could see cows grazing. It was just so pastoral, which is why we all live here, and it was beautiful. I had a friend tell me from Elizabeth, well, it's an ugly area. If anything's going to be industrial, it's going to be this area along Kiowa Bennett. I think we need to think about that again. We can turn Elbert County into an agricultural tourism area where we have ranches that are supporting tourists coming into our area, maybe distilleries or wineries or something along that line. There's ways to make money, and it doesn't include this mega storage area that he's not even willing to build because the amount of residential area that he has planned in his future view of this area has not even been approved completely. We did want some housing for our sheriffs and our teachers and our civil servants, and that's fine. But they don't want to be living next to a storage area that looks industrial either. So, first of all, Coyote Creek is riparian habitat. That means lots of animals go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And all of the areas or ranches that are around it are large enough that if they sell, we could have beautiful estates out there, or wineries, or places where people can gathering places, wedding venues. It's a beautiful area, but not if you have tons of, I mean, when I looked at that, I went, holy, never mind, I won't say what I was thinking. Okay, so I just want to put that out there as a citizen of Elbert County.
Thank you, ma'am. Any other public comments?
Good afternoon. My name is Jill Nemeth. I have purchased the property at 43214 Vega. My property is northeast of the Purple Pinched area. Provo comes right up to my property line where my driveway already is. I don't want people coming in and out at night, getting lost, coming up into my driveway because they were out camping and having a party and they're drunk and they should be driving anyways. But it's very possible that they'd be coming right up into my driveway. The light situation, thank you so much for bringing that up. I appreciate it because we bought the property, we bought it so that we could have country life. You know, we bought it and then the developer came into town and that got approved. And we've worked with Jim and he's moved his road more south for us. It was right up, a butt up against our property line, and he's moved that. You know, working with people is great. Having people that will be coming from West and Bennett and who knows where, who normally might not be on Kiowa Bennett Road, who might use Vega Street to cut off on the curb because it's going to be easier to go down Vega and then down Pavo to turn into the mini storage. We don't need that property. I'm in a cul-de-sac for a reason. We purchased that lot for a reason. We don't need people going up and down streets of Vega. We don't. I mean, if there's any way that if this can't be completely demolished and you guys say no, I respect that. However, how can us that live on that Vega street who, you know, work hard for our money, who bought property, who were actually told where those lovely stars are, we're going to be 35 or 40 acre lots. Obviously lied to. But how can we be sure that we're going to be keeping our property safe and our hard-earned money safe from the people that are going to be benefiting from a bunch of metal and chain link fences? That's not pretty. I appreciate the trees comment. I think trees, if this has to go through, should go all the way around this damn chain link fence on the outside so that when we are up in our house, when the house is built, and we're looking over, we're not seeing a bunch of chain link fences. We brought it for the beauty of the country. I'm just asking you to consider us that have worked hard for this money to buy this property. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Any other public comments? Hello, sir.
Afternoon, Steve Chin, 8907 Lariat Loop and 43804 Vega, which is one of the, as he calls it, just the people to the east neighborhood. From what I see, it's completely an environmental catastrophe. I mean, if it's going to be a concrete, you got vehicles sitting on the ground, RVs leaking oil, gas, heat going up and down, gas expanding, leaking all over the property, contaminating all the stuff, especially out in the lot there. 1,500 to 1,700 vehicles, boats, RVs. It's going to be a disaster down there. Environmental-wise, when we bought in, like I said, the developer did a bait and switch. Hey, this is all going to be 30-acre, 35-acre lots, 40-acre lots through their realtor. That's why we kind of bought out there. Then all of a sudden, guess what? Lo and behold, after they just sold almost all but one lot of the 14 lots. There's a total of 14. I guess you guys took one out for the Elbert County East now out of our group. But with that being said, we own that road. Vega and Pavo is owned by us. We are responsible for that road. Now it's going to become a public access road. We're responsible for taking care of all that. They want to try to put I believe, an access into the facility off of Pavo, or an exit. We're responsible for that. The 14 homeowners that are there. That's who's responsible for that road. You guys, the county is not paying for that. I'm a certified SEPTED. I'm 26 years law enforcement. Certified, which is, SEPTED is a crime prevention through environmental design. It's a nationally known thing. Light pollution is going to be horrible. I've dealt with Aurora, with all their multi-storage facilities, huge crime rates, huge meth labs that go on inside. They have people living in the storage facility, especially if they're not controlled accessed, like by monitoring and then time delay. People are going to live in there. That's common. Then it goes and expands out. Lights. The only way they're going to start, especially with chain link fence, people are going to be cutting fences, jumping fences, going right into our properties. The photo that he had showed earlier about what's out there, that's not an accurate depiction of what's going on out there. Everyone's building houses right now. Foundations are going in. I think 7 of the 14 lots, well, we won't count the bottom one anymore, 7 of the 13 lots are actually getting built on. Houses with, people building nice houses. One of them down the bottom off of Pavo and Vega, I talked to him today. They literally want to put a fence right on his fence line, and that's what he's going to look at. A chain link fence. So fun. Bait and switch every time. That's why they did. That's why they waited until now to go ahead and put this forward. Wildlife. We have quite the covenants we have to go by but the developer said for us to do. We have certain fences. We can't even go over a certain height of a fence line for wildlife. He directed that. We can't have bright lights anywhere on our property for the light pollution. That's the developer, the guy that's putting through this. Now we're going to monitor 2,000 gallons of sewage. You can't monitor. People open up their RV and it's going to dump. What are you going to say? Yeah, that's about 2,000 gallons. I'll stop there. That's not going to happen. They're not going to upset their employees and customers. It's a zero tax base. What are they going to pay? Property tax, and that's about it? There's no employment tax. There's no sales of anything, maybe some boxes. But it's a burden, absolute burden on the county. It just doesn't fit in. I mean, it's heartbreaking when now I'm like, okay, I figure the residents behind me on the fence line, I'm okay with that because it's gonna be residential. I could handle that. But I can't handle to look at RVs. Go to over there, Aurora and 470. It's the ugliest thing in the world. Ugliest thing. Crime there is horrible. I should have called and picked up the crime stats for it. But it's horrible. People break in, get their RVs broken into, and then guess what they're gonna do? Complain to them, guess what they're gonna do? Put lights up. Bright lights. So that people, like cockroaches, they'll scatter away. That's how it is with septet. Chain link fence, we are not even allowed to put chain link fence around our properties. So, if you have any questions, thank you.
Thank you, sir, for your comments. Afternoon, sir.
Hi, I'm Alan Mosley. I have the property at 43803 Vega, which adjoins the project. Just a couple of things. Still haven't received my notice on this project yet. My concerns are that have already been mentioned, a bunch of them, but I am concerned about the talk about the lighting has been very general as far as in the, can't remember what you call it whenever you have your back and forth in your packet, but it talks about, okay, lighting at the entrance. Okay, my experience has been you put an entrance on a road and then it just kind of creeps. Okay, somebody slows down to turn in, you have an accident, now they want to put a street light on it. Then you want to put a traffic light. And then it just, I've watched that. Commuting to work, my drive time doubled over my 20 years of commuting on the same 2-lane road because every mile there was now a traffic light when it was one traffic light in 15 miles. So I know how that happens, but this is, yes, they may put down light and all that, but then what happens whenever you have to have a street light at the intersection to keep people from running into each other? One of the things that I noticed in the packet was talk about the needs for the area, and it mentioned drawing from Bennett and Kiowa. Well, there's 2 giant RV and boat storage places just went in both Bennett and Kiowa. So I'm kind of wondering about that argument. Anyway, I am concerned about the lights. If this does have to go through, then does it have to be 24-hour access? Why not just not have 24-hour access, and that kind of, why do you need a light at the entrance if nobody's going in at night? Just a thought.
Thank you, sir. Any other public comments?
Try this again. Beverly Durant, 40968 Kiowa Bennett Road. First of all, in your packets, you had several letters of opposition. Most of these people are here. I know the other adjoining landowners. To the west, it is Stephen Balsarovich. He is against this project. To the north, it is Rocky Mountain Cattle Company, Tim Ulmer. He also is opposed to this. And then to the east, a little farther from the homes, is the Snow Waldine property, which is the big section over there. They also are opposed. The only one in favor of it is Tim Kraft, another developer. I'm going to reiterate about the road conditions. Kiowa Bennett is awful, and it keeps getting worse daily with all the traffic that's on it. County Road 174 is right across from this entrance that they're want to put in. And what is going to happen with RVs trying to turn in and out of there, cars coming from 174 in and out, it's going to cause a lot of accidents, let alone like what I said with these buildings, even RVs, you can't see around that curve. That's going to cause accidents with wildlife and with stock that get on the road sometimes. This will adversely impact the public services, and it will burden our road system. We've seen it already on Kiowa Bennett Road. It's just going to get worse. Also, it is not compatible or in harmony with the area at all. There's no need to have this there at this time. And so I hope that you will go with the recommendation of your own county employees and not allow this. And I hope that you all will listen to your citizens of Elbert County that elected you and not the developers that just want to ruin the beauty of our county. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comments? Going once? All right, with that, not seeing any, we'll close the public comments portions, and I'll also give the applicant an opportunity to respond to any of the comments if you'd like.
Thank you, Commissioner McDaniel. First question, will RVs have the room to pull off completely? Yes, we've set the gates into the site far enough that would allow a truck and RV trailer to not be on Kiowa Bennett Road. We're not opposed to, the only area as far as trees that where the trees are inside are along Kiowa Bennett. All the others on the south and east are on the outside. So we can move that on the Kiowa Bennett side to the east. I think we're already satisfying the concern there on the south and east side. And we're definitely not opposed to moving trees around. The situation with the two roads, essentially the private road that was mentioned earlier. So the way that the project was, the two 7-lot plats that were approved, the ownership of those roads the ownership of each lot goes to the center line of the road. So each property owner has a portion of the road on the front part of their lot, as do the 35-acre pieces that we own on the very bottom star, and then the piece of ground just to the south of the bottom star. We also own that part of the road. They do have a road agreement that's a part of their covenants that they all agree to, indicating that they're going to share in the cost of maintenance. We are paving from Kiowa Bennett to the entrance, the south entrance coming off of that local road. So, I think we're improving the road beyond what is currently there already. By private, it just means it's not a county-owned and maintained road, but it is a public access easement. So you can't restrict traffic from going through there. I think we can do things to help with signage to prevent people from cutting through to get to that southern entrance. We will be open to those sort of things, but it's a dedicated public access easement. It was set up that way when we were platting the 214 lots, so that there were 2 points of access coming in and going out. The 24-hour access comment, I mentioned we haven't set any of those sort of timelines. We're not opposed to restricting access. I mean, even if it was an 8-10 hour period of time, you're going to need lighting at the entrances, just because you're going to run into morning and early evening hours where you need additional lighting. So that's really where that would benefit, even if it was restricted to a smaller amount of time So the 24-hour access thing is definitely something that we can work with everybody on. I do want to speak on behalf of one of the last comments that was made. The Rocky Mountain Cattle Company to the north, Tim Ulmer, we've been in numerous conversations with him. I was just on the phone with him this morning. He specifically has indicated that he is in support of this project. As I mentioned earlier, they've discussed some of these very same sort of development plans. So the existing house that's there right now, our intent is to, I didn't touch on this, I want to bring this up. Our intent is to keep that, turn it into a caretaker's house where we will have 24/7 presence in terms of somebody there that will be observing and taking in accountability for things like the septic use. I mean, we have state and county health requirements that we have to meet in terms of providing that kind of information and statistics to them. So it has to happen. I mean, it's something that we will definitely have our full-time caretaker be responsible for. I mentioned phasing earlier. We are open to the idea of additional phasing if, again, that helps, so that people feel more comfortable that we're not going to build out of sync with the development that is planned. And, you know, the turn lane on 1720, or on Kiowa Bennett Road, you know, the two traffic engineers, the county's third-party engineer and our engineer, determined that one wasn't necessary. If that's something that the county is really interested in and it would help, we're open to that. I think that addresses most of the comments and concerns that were brought up. We hope that everything is taken into consideration here, and that you know, the area is changing, and I think everybody understands that we didn't have anything to do with the approval of the 3 master plan communities. We wouldn't be here today if those 3 master plan community approvals hadn't occurred. You're not going to build a business without rooftops. So, you know, I'm sorry that the area is changing, but we're basing this proposal off of those 3 projects and what's occurring up in Bennett as well.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any additional questions or comments from the board?
Not at this time.
Sure.
I have a question for you, Mr. Kirst. Many of the concerns that have been brought up from this table and also from the citizens is kind of around the uncertainty of what this is going to look like, the speed of development, what is really nailed down. Would you be open to sitting down with staff and the county attorney and putting a development guided agreement in place to where it would be very clear to the citizens and to the county all these different issues, such as the scaling you were talking about, you're opening to do, from the lighting, access, traffic studies, impact on the surrounding area, and have certain trigger points throughout there. So you already said you're open to turn lanes. That development guide could say at a certain amount of development in the area or with what you're doing, this would be what would trigger turn lanes put in. Is that something that you would be open to looking at too?
Yes.
Any other questions, comments? Okay, this time I'll ask for a motion.
I'll make a motion to deny Peak Vista RV and Mini Storage Economic Development Zone Site Development Plan EDZ 2024-4358 based on the recommendations of our planning department.
I'm going to make a secondary motion that we postpone the hearing on this Peak Vista to June 25th, pending the time for staff, the county attorney, and applicant to develop a development guide that we can reevaluate at that time.
And I'm going to ask our county attorney here. We've got one motion on the floor. So I'm going to second the first motion to deny.
That's improper. The second motion has to be taken care of before the first motion can be.
So we've got two motions and no seconds. And we'll say that the motions fail. And I'm referring, Bart, you want to give us a little input on this? Both motions fail for lack of second? Second.
Yeah, there currently is no motion, or is no second for either motion.
Well, the first motion gets put aside until the second motion is handled. If the chair determines that there is no second on the second motion, then it dies and moves on to the first.
Correct.
Right, so there is no motion or no second on the second motion. So now we're back to the first. So with that, I'll second the first motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.
Are you going to ask for those opposed?
Are you opposed?
Nay.
Opportunity. Nay. We have two in favor, or two noes and one. Let me correct this. We have two in favor of denying and one in favor, or not in favor of, by the vote of nay. Correct? All right. Thank you. All right. Now I'll accept a motion to close this public hearing.
Make a motion to close the public hearing for Peak Vista RV and Mini Storage Economic Development Zone Site Development Plan EDZ 2024-4358.
Second.
Favor aye. All right. With that said, the next item on the agenda, Pasture Gate Circle variance 2024-3765. And I would accept a motion to open as the Board of Adjustments. Is there a motion?
Yeah, I'll make the motion to open as the Board of Adjustments.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, sign of aye.
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 Motion carries. Staff?
Good afternoon again, Commissioners. My name is Danny with Community and Economic Development, and this is a staff presentation for Pasture Gate Circle variance. That's case VAR-2024-3765. Start with the project summary. The site location for this proposed variance is 3765 Pasture Gate Circle, Elizabeth, Colorado 80107. The site size is 2.65 acres. The zoning is planned unit development. And the request is for a 13-foot reduction for a side setback. The applicant and property owner is Don Tipple. Here's a look at the location. You can see that little yellow dot just north of Elizabeth. It's in northwest Elbert County, about 2.5 miles north of Elizabeth. The zoning is Running Brook Estates. That's a planned unit development. Surrounding the property to the north is an agricultural property. That's a 41-acre property with agricultural land use and a home and several outbuildings. To the south, there's another property within Running Brook Estates, a 2.82 acre residential, and to the east and west, there's also approximately 2.5 acre properties within Running Brook Estates. Here's an aerial of the property. It's outlined in purple there, and we'll zoom in a little bit here further. Here's a look at the house and the proposed location for the accessory building, approximately where that red truck is. As you can see, it's kind of an oddly shaped wedge lot, and there's a home and garden there shown on the western side. Here's a look at the site plan. The building is proposed to be 2 feet outside of the utility easement. So the utility easement is a 10-foot easement. It's outside of that easement. And it'll run parallel with the existing south side of the garden there. This site plan was provided by our applicant. The building proposed is 24 by 36 by 16. Here's a street view look. It's kind of hard to see the exact layout of the lot here, but the home is shown there in front. As you can see, there's kind of those creek drainages on the west and east of the house. So for this, the summary is for an accessory building and to reduce the side setback by 13 feet. No utility easements are impacted. The applicant provided information that the neighbor and architectural review committee for the subdivision have no objections. So this project began earlier this year in January with a pre-app meeting. No community meetings exist or are required for any variance. First review cycle was in the beginning of February, and then there were just a couple extra items that got addressed in the second from March 18th to March 20th, and that involved a drainage letter for public works and communication with our assessor's office. The applicant has complied with all notice requirements from Elbert County zoning with an on-site sign posting April 6th, quarter-mile radius mailing with certified mail, and a posting in Ranchland News. So this project answered all questions and comments from referral agencies. There's no outstanding comments or concerns related to this project. In terms of public comment, there was one received, and it was in support. It was an interesting letter. It was hard to make sense of exactly what it was saying, but it did support it, and the HOA Architectural Review Committee also approved. So for variance, Article 3J7 are the criteria for our variance approval for the Board of Adjustment. A is due to lot shape and or topography, a specific piece of property, basically topographic conditions or other extraordinary and exceptional situations or conditions, a piece of property, the strict application of the regulations would result in a peculiar and undue practical difficulties for the owner of the property and also unnecessary hardship. The typical property's topography and current layout of the house and leach field make the southwest side of the property an ideal place for the accessory building. There might be other locations where the accessory building could be sited, but other placements may cause more hardship and financial difficulty. B, the extraordinary and exceptional situation or condition on the property that is stated as the reason for the proposed variance is not self-imposed. The basis for this variance request is a result of property topography, driveway location, and the existing leach field behind the residence. As any other location may add difficulty and additional costs, a variance is required to allow for this planned accessory building. C, the proposed variance complies with the purpose and intent of the standard to be varied and generally observes the spirit of the zoning regulations. The intent of setbacks is to keep privacy and separation between uses and structures. The proposed variance encroaches 13 feet on the required 25-foot side setback. Considering that the greatest encroachment is towards the neighbor and that the neighbor has agreed that the accessory building will not cause hardship, the variance does comply with the purpose and intent of the standard that is being requested to be varied. D, the variance will not impair the appropriate use or development of the adjacent property. The proposed variance will not impair any ability for the adjacent property to develop or adversely impact any adjacent lots. And E, the variance is the minimum variance that will afford relief with the least modification of the zoning regulations. The proposal is a minimum relief to be able to appropriately construct this size accessory building in relation to the house and driveway. Based on the review of these approval criteria found in Article 3J7 and the findings in the staff report, staff recommends approval with conditions for the Pasture Gate Circle variance. The proposal is in conformance with the comprehensive plan, meets criteria commonly associated with variance requests. Subdivision regulations are not applicable to this application. The proposal is compatible with the existing and allowable land uses in the surrounding area, and the proposal will not result in significant impact to the health, safety, and welfare of the residents and landowners of the surrounding area. So our conditions for approval are that the applicant will be required to remove the signs for the public hearing within 7 days of a decision by the Board of Adjustment. And 2, the variance will not become effective until all fees are paid, conditions of approval are met, and the variance resolution is recorded. With variances, we don't require any additional recording, so it's just the resolution. So that concludes my presentation for the Pasture Gate Circle variance request, VAR 2024-3765. And the applicant is also here to answer any questions. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Are there any questions or comments from the commissioners?
Yeah, I got just 2 concerns, and it sounded like you addressed the easement issue. You had said it was outside 2 feet, but the slide said it was inside 2 feet, but it sounds like you've got that resolved.
Yes, so that was the applicant's drawing. The easement is 10-foot utility easement, so it's outside of the utility easement.
Okay, good. And then the only other thing that I would like to know, and I think is important, do we have something in the file from the neighbor saying that they are okay with the variance? Because apparently they're okay with it, but it would be nice to have something in the file. Are you the neighbor? Okay. Sure, no problem. So that's even better. But that's all I had.
All right, sir. Commissioner Schroeder? No questions? All right, sir. I have no questions. So we're going to let you off easy right now. So.
It seems so. Juan, your question.
Sir, you want to come up and give us your name, address?
My name is Juan Reyes, 3751 Pasture Gate Circle. I'm not opposing it. We came to an agreement after I first did. My only question was to you guys, as far as when my wife and I decide to sell our property, is there going to be anything that we have to know later on as far as the county? How do I put it? As far as giving you guys notice or anything? If it's approved, that's the end of it. We don't have to notify you guys of anything when we decide to sell our property?
Not to my knowledge, but no.
That was our only concern.
Mark, do you have any input on that?
As far as the new owners having to notify you guys or anything like that?
Well,
to do with
any
the county?
abnormality or variance that's been approved should be disclosed by the title company or whoever's doing the research on a product, property that's being sold. So it wouldn't even be up necessarily to you. It'd be up for the buyers to do their due diligence on the property to understand what's going on with it. That's my understanding anyway.
Okay, that was my only question.
Your realtors will do a lot of that work for you, so.
What's that?
Your realtors will do a lot of that work for you to.
Yeah, that's
make
kind
sure
of what I figured. I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah, yeah, okay.
Okay,
Thank you.
thanks.
All right.
Question.
Any other citizen comments, questions?
Good afternoon, gentlemen. My name is Don Burrows. I live at 3779 Pasture Gate Circle. And I've looked at this property, and there are many other places where this building can be built without a variance. And how often do we start with the variance for one that we can't do for others in the future? A lot of my neighbors have built big buildings very similar to what this one's going to be built, and they complied with the 25-foot rule. I know there's a lot of other places on this property where it can be built. It didn't show on the picture, but there's a large lot behind the house also. So if you make a variance for one, is it going to be a variance for all? Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comments? Okay, seeing none, I'll close the public comment.
May I address that?
Yes, sir.
My name Don Tipple. I live at 3765 Pasture Gate Circle, and I am the one applying for the variance. The location that we've chosen for this building is on the west side of our driveway, and it was one of many different places on the lot that we have explored, and it is the most acceptable from the perspective of stormwater drainage. On the right-hand side of the driveway, as you're facing the house, you had a fairly recent photograph. That culvert you see is in the circle. Water drains from the circle on the other side of the road through a culvert into this circle, and from here into my neighbor's lot. That in turn drains down into my lot. Beyond the front of my house, about 40 feet back, on the right-hand side, there is an earthen dam. That earthen dam has a 16-inch culvert on the bottom. It's not shown here, but I think you can see it. Anyway, that earthen dam meters the water that flows into the dry creek behind my house, and it meters the water that is runoff from several of the adjacent lots. And so placing the building on that side of the driveway would be untenable, particularly since we intend to use the building for storage of the red truck you see somewhat hidden behind the tree, and a couple of garden tractors, and we also intend to use it for a wood shop, a hobby wood shop. And so, given the incompatibility of electrically powered machines and water, we thought that was probably a bad location for any sort of a building with that kind of functionality included. Behind the house, we have the leach field, and behind that, there is a vacant space that could be used. However, in order to construct a building back there would require us to drive over the leach field with construction machinery. That in turn could compromise the effectiveness of the leach field. And so that's the reason we chose not to site it back there. Of all the locations available, this one also provides us access using the existing driveway, which was important to the fire department. And so for those reasons, we've chosen this and chosen to request a variance.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. All right, with that, I'll ask for a motion.
Mr. Chair, I move we approve the Pasture Gate Circle variance VAR 2024-3765.
There's a motion, is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, sign of aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. All right, I accept a motion to close the Board of Adjustments. Is there a motion?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to close as the Board of Adjustments.
Second.
All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Next item is adjournment. I accept a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor, aye.
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 Time is now 2:50 p.m. We are adjourned. Thank you.